Yes, people. So we have another interview this week. You get me? This time we have two geezers who have written 2 books, I believe, but they have a new one out at the moment. And with the World Cup coming up, it seemed like the perfect time to get them on to talk about this new book because the book is called Messi versus Ronaldo, which is obviously written by Joshua Robinson and Jonathon Clegg, as you can see on screen in the Barstool studio. So I'd like to thank you, lads, for coming on the show firstly and ask how you doing today.
Thanks for having us. We're doing great.
Yep, doing good. Thank you.
Is it your first time in the Barstool studios?
This is it, the debut.
The debut. So have you had a little tour? Like, what do you think about it?
No, we're straight in here.
They literally just threw you straight into the fire.
Straight in the hot seat. That's it. They're just like, sit in there, spit fire. So that's what we're doing.
So the new book, Messi versus Ronaldo. Are you both Messi and Ronaldo fans, or are you one Messi and one Ronaldo?
It's tough to kind of separate them for us because we feel like we've spent 2 years working on this story and, and like 15 years following their careers where you can't tear them apart like that. It's for us, it's like one Messi-Naldo entity.
Messi-Naldo. So that's the new one, yeah? We're going to run with that one for the World Cup.
That's it.
You should make Messi-Naldo t-shirts maybe.
We should make those t-shirts. Don't give them too many ideas, man.
I don't want to. Now, you see how they dropped it on the pod? Like, they might copyright that. You understand? Like, so,
yeah.
You get me?
That's our intellectual property.
That's why I said, yeah, you feel me? So, you said you've been working on it for how long?
I mean, in earnest, we've been working on this for 2 years, but, between us, we've been covering their careers for the past 15 years, based in Europe, covering international football.
So what made you pick them two? Because obviously there are a lot of greats in world football. You also did a book about the Premier League, and there are some great Premier League players that we've seen. You could have done like a maybe Henry versus Van Nistelrooy. You could have done a Vieira Keane. How come you chose? Obviously, they're the two biggest in recent times, but there have been people to that level as well. So what made you pick Messi and Ronaldo?
Well, yeah, I think it's to do with the fact that they're the biggest stars. Basically, that every Ballon d'Or for the last 15 years, they've shared them between them. So, I think it was partly that, their global fame and stuff, even compared to guys like Henry and Van Nistelrooy, like Messi and Ronaldo are just another level. They are as famous around the world as the US president or the Pope or whatever. They are so huge that no other football players really compare. And then I think having done the book about the Premier League, which kind of I feel like gave people a pretty good explanation for why modern football is like it is and why the Premier League is so strong. The one part of that wasn't quite explained was why Real Madrid and Barcelona were so dominant during the early 2010s when Messi and Ronaldo were there, and why they kept scooping up the Champions League every season. So this book feels like it tells the story pretty well of how we got to where we are, where Barcelona and Real Madrid were the kind of dominant club teams of the 2010s, even as the Premier League clubs were the richest in the world.
Mm-hmm. Did you not ever manage to go and see Messi and Ronaldo play in El Clasico?
Yeah, many times. At different times, we've both been based in Europe covering European football. And so we've been Camp Nou, we've been to the Bernabeu, and that's the thing about them. What's amazing to us about the rivalry is that they haven't actually faced each other that often. They've been on the same pitch maybe 36 times in this era that's kind of defined by them. Whereas, the other great rivalries across sports, Roger and Rafa, for instance, those guys are on the same circuit playing each other all the time. You knew that 2 out of 4 Grand Slams were going to have them facing off. Messi and Ronaldo, not so much.
Yeah, that's true as well, because even at international level, Portugal and Argentina don't really cross paths. If obviously the only time they cross paths is in the World Cup, we've actually never seen an Argentina-Portugal. I can't even remember, even if you go back to the Figo days and the Batistuta times, I don't really remember seeing Argentina and Portugal cross paths.
And if it happened now, it would just melt Twitter.
Yeah. Well, also that's partly because before Ronaldo, Portugal wasn't really any great shakes in international football. Their record, like since Ronaldo came into the team, is like far eclipsed whatever they did beforehand. Like they had a pretty good team in like the 60s with Eusebio, and they were like decent in the 90s. But in between, they did really nothing in the World Cup.
They always had like great players, but they never had like a team.
Yeah.
Like if I was being honest, I think the Portuguese team now is probably. I don't think it's better than the Portuguese team in the 90s, like the Figo team, the Rui Costa team, that team, like when Ronaldo was a young man coming into a Euro 2004.
Yes,
I think that team there was, but this team now is more of a team. But back to the Messi Ronaldo debate. You said you both went to El Clasico, and you both said you went to Bernabeu and you went to the Camp Nou. I've had the privilege to go into both stadiums as well, but not to see El Clasico. To watch Arsenal. We won in Madrid. We never won in Barcelona. I'd rather not talk about my adventures in the new camp. They were nightmares. You understand? There was no dreams. It was just nightmares. But I felt like I felt an intensity. I felt like the atmosphere was on the brink of toxic, and that was between Arsenal and Madrid or Barcelona. How was it at the Camp Nou? Like, was it worse at the Camp Nou? Or was it more toxic at the Camp Nou because obviously they're Catalonians, they've got more, like, the whole Catalonia and Madrista beef. They more take it personally than the Madristas. Was it more intimidating in the Camp Nou or in the Bernabeu?
I think this thing that stays with me that's really the same in both, and that you don't get going to games in England, is just that sort of high-pitched whistling for 90 minutes. Because every time the other team has the ball, you've heard it because you've been to Camp Nou with Arsenal. It's just that constant whistling, and it's really ear piercing.
Yeah, Camp Nou is insane. I think because you're right, because of the Catalonia thing, because it sort of feels almost like it matters more to them because it's like some part of their identity. Like we all identify with our clubs, but to them it's sort of like some part of like deep within themselves that they identify with the team. That when they lose, they just go completely insane. I remember I was there the time that Messi and Barcelona got knocked out of the Champions League by Jose Mourinho when he was at Inter. And Mourinho,
semi-final, and he
rang on the pitch like this, and then they turned the sprinklers on, and he was getting soaked, and that was insane. That was so toxic. I mean, that was just wild atmosphere. But yeah, they take losing, especially in the Champions League, so badly. So Camp Nou is something else.
Who do you think's had the bigger impact on the game? Because Ronaldo's done it in numerous countries. Messi's just finally stepped out of his comfort zone, but you could still kind of say he is in a comfort zone because, no disrespect, Liga isn't really the Premier League, Serie A, or La Liga. Ronaldo's done it in the Premier League. He's done it in La Liga. He's done it in Serie A. He's gone back to the Premier League. He done it last year. Obviously, this year it's gone, as us Brits say, tits up. But who has had the bigger impact? Because Messi's got more Ballon d'Ors, but Ronaldo's done it in more countries, and he did it before Messi on the international level.
I think for us, in the way we did the book, it was also about measuring that impact, not just in terms of goals and trophies, but stepping back and looking at how they kind of, the effect of their rivalry and their very presence on the super clubs kind of rippled out across European football. And so, with them came the era of players being definitively bigger than clubs, and the era of like the super clubs needing to build around those guys. And so we saw their impact even after they were gone. For close to a decade, Real Madrid and Barcelona both spent themselves into oblivion to keep those guys going and keep giving them championship caliber teams. And from there, what you get is after they leave, the trophies are still there, but the money isn't. And so you can even trace things like the failed Super League project to them because Barcelona and Real Madrid were desperate at that point. So the impact is measured like far beyond the pitch.
Yeah, and I think even when you look at their impact beyond the pitch as well, when you think about Ronaldo and his impact, you're also really looking at George Mendes, his agent, who is now probably the single most powerful and influential individual in European football. You know, he's like every summer he's like moving guys here, moving whole clubs like devote their whole transfer strategy to just like whatever George Mendes wants to do, right? Like Wolves, you know, they're just taking a bunch of different Mendes clients, plugging them in. This guy moves to somewhere at Monaco or whatever. He goes to Porto. He sort of shuffles them around like pawns on the chessboard. And so I think, you know, Ronaldo's impact sort of, you know, Ronaldo created George Mendes really. So I think when you look at his impact off the field, I mean, it's true for both of them, but especially Ronaldo, you know, without Ronaldo, there's no George Mendes. And like I say, he's, you know, arguably as important as any club owner.
Now, you touched on the global impact that they both have on the game, inside football and outside of football. Is it true that they almost participated in a all-star game for around 90 million? Because I heard that you lot touch on it in the book. So could you shed a little light on that? Because like me, I was kind of like, I'm not sure about this all-star game. Like when Todd Bowley was talking about it, North versus South, like I can't really see Saka running down the wing with Harry Kane. Like I only accept that for England. Like to do that, like this ain't LeBron James and I don't know, what's his name?
Steph
Trey
Curry.
Young linking up like,
Yeah.
or Steph, like this ain't that kind of party. Like, so is it true that they was willing to actually participate in that? If the logistics were funded and like what they wanted?
Yeah, 100%. You know, the organizers got really close, and where it broke down, you know, they were going to have Cristiano FC and, you know, Team Messi, where each one got to pick a number of players. They were working out all the logistics to put it at Wembley. And then the real stumbling block was on the appearance fees and the release fees, because Florentino Perez, for instance, wanted something like 20 million euros to make Real Madrid players available. And, you know, if you're going to have an all-star game, you can't really do it without Real Madrid players.
But they got far down the road. They were going to even to the extent that Nike was going to supply the Ronaldo team and Adidas was going to kid out the Messi team. So it was all like everything was ready to roll. They just couldn't get the finances to add up.
So is there any chance it could happen now? Because obviously at that time you're saying he was at Real Madrid, so that must have been a few years ago. That must have been like 2016.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it was around 16, 17.
2016-17 was when they were planning to do it. Yeah.
So have they ever gone back to the table to try and do it again? Like maybe like before they both end their playing career?
Well, I don't know if I don't think there are any discussions going on right now. I'm not sure, but the trouble with doing it now would be that back in 2016-17, if you asked 100 people who are the best players, two players in the world, they would all say Ronaldo and Messi. Now you'd have like Mbappe be like, what about Team Mbappe? What's going on? You know, like Haaland would be like, where's Haaland FC? Like I'm not playing for Ronaldo. I'm better than Ronaldo. So I think it would be harder to pull off now in a way that like it was totally natural in 2016 that if you were doing all-star teams, it would be Messi against Ronaldo.
Yeah,
you know?
It feels like the moment's passed.
Mm. Do you think the moment's passed for either of them to come across the pond and play in the States? Because we're seeing that the rumors are picking up speed on Messi to Miami.
Feels like that window is just opening now. You know, now is probably the right time for the next couple of years. We know they're reaching the kind of twilight in Europe, and neither of them looks ready to quit. You know, we certainly know that's true with Cristiano, even though he's 37 and like clearly running out of juice. But you know, that guy's, you're gonna have to drag him off the pitch, so he's gonna have to find somewhere to play. And the Messi rumors, as you say, are picking up. You know, they're both trying to milk their careers for as much as they're worth still.
I think as well they've been focused for at least the last 2 years on the World Cup in Qatar. They've just been like laser focused on that. They want to be at big European teams to make sure they get picked in the starting lineups for Portugal and Argentina. And I think once the World Cup is over, I think we're going to see the next phase of their careers, because I don't think Ronaldo's not going to stay at Man U for long. And I don't know how much longer Messi will remain in Paris as well once the World Cup's over and done, especially if Argentina wins it, which they've got a pretty good chance.
What's your thoughts on this whole Ronaldo situation at the moment with his like childish, babyish behavior? Some people are defending it. Some people are against it. It seems if you're against it, you get blanked.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I do have some sympathy. You know, like we another thing that we reported in the book that was not out there before was that it was only a few weeks after Ronaldo moved to Man U that he was like, this is a disaster. He knew that like the team was not equipped to challenge at the top. He knew that the standards that he remembered from when he was there the first time, when Alex Ferguson was in charge and when they were like winning the league every year, he was shocked by how much the standards had dropped in terms of like how committed the players were, how much extra training they did, like how much they looked after themselves. So, you know, I do feel some sympathy that he was probably sold a vision for what he was doing when he rejoined the club. And it was like, you're going to be the final piece of the jigsaw that like puts us over the edge and turns us from a, you know, second, third place team into a Premier League winner. And then he got there and he was like, no, this is not it. So I do feel some sympathy with him just because, you know, again, he's a guy who, however well or badly he's playing, you know that he's always giving, you know, the absolute maximum. That's, I mean, probably the one thing we'll remember about Cristiano Ronaldo when he's retired and an old man is that he gave the maximum in every single avenue and every single way he could. So, you know, I would be upset if I, you know, felt like my teammates weren't doing the same.
Can I get your World Cup predictions before I let you go? Who do you think is going further? You touched on Argentina a moment ago, saying that Messi's got a good chance. Portugal, they have a good chance as well. Pretty decent team.
I think Argentina maybe goes one round deeper than Portugal, but I'm not sure either of them win it.
Where did they get to? I need like confirmation. You're saying one round, put your neck on the line.
I think Argentina have a good chance. I think they're going to get to at least the semi-finals, maybe the final. I think they're something like 34 matches unbeaten. They won the Copa America just the other year. Feels like Messi's like getting into form at just the right time. He's been playing so well this season. Last season was kind of a write-off. I think the move from Barcelona totally affected him and he wasn't playing anywhere near his level. This year, he's like back to being Messi again. He seems happy playing for the national team now, which he definitely hasn't been at some other tournaments. Portugal, I mean, we went and saw Portugal in the playoff that they needed to win to get there, and they did not look good to me. I would be surprised if they got past the round of 16. The thing with Portugal is, in tournaments, they're always really like strong defensively, and they like grind out results, and they like and
1-0, 2-1,
1-0, 2-1. They get extra time, and they just wait for Ronaldo to like do the bit of magic that wins it. So they're a very good tournament team. But I still think that I think Messi and Argentina will get to the final.
I think our real rooting interest is in the thing that's possible, which is an Argentina-Portugal final, which would just be football Armageddon.
Yeah, Messi Ronaldo in the final would be, just
almost too much.
Yeah, exactly, the wildest you could get.
That would probably be the biggest World Cup final of all time.
Yep,
it would. Yeah, the television people, they'd love it because, boy, their viewing would go through the roof, man.
Yeah.
Literally, that would go through the roof. But thank you very much for coming on the show. If you want to let the people know where they can get the book from, like any platforms, any shops, or where it is.
Available everywhere. Anywhere you normally buy books, Messi versus Ronaldo is there.
Yep, it's out today, November 1st in the US. It's out November 10th in the UK. The full title, Messi versus Ronaldo, One Rivalry, Two Goats, and the Era That Remade the World's Game. Go get it.
You heard them. Go get it.